But we are very pleased as we welcome you back in ahead of Super Bowl 59 for Media Row to talk to Louis Riddick of ESPN. He's one of the great analysts covering the sport in the country at this point. And I got to say, one of the most adamant, loud backers of Jayden Daniels all season long.
Yeah, man.
What did the kids say? 10 toes down or something? I mean, you are in his corner in a big, big way. And you turned out to be very, very right.
Too.
Yeah, no, you know what? That started way back, man. Like, during the regular season, just watching him play from afar. You don't know a whole lot about a guy at that point, but there's just certain things that attract you to the way guys play. And then you go down to LSU and you start asking people about Jayden Daniels, the person. And it just came back. I mean, all the reviews came back glowingly. And then I got to talk to him. And you think about the things that he went through as far as his transition from ASU to LSU, the commitment that he made not only to get better, but become a great teammate, become a great leader, get to know all the guys. And then when you watch him throw the football in person, look, man, I mean, the ball comes off of his hand like an absolute bullet. And you just knew he was going to be committed to being as great as he possibly can be. He's a team guy first. You saw how all the other guys, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, how all these guys at his pro day, they were there to serve him. It was all about him. And so I'm going, look, he not only does he have it as a captain, the way he throws the ball and the way he can run, come on, forget it. He's the dude. And that's not, look, I'm not trying to talk bad about Caleb Williams, and I wouldn't do that. But I got a different feeling around Jayden Daniels than I did around Caleb. And a lot of that had to do with just how the players responded to him. They wanted to be there for him. You know where else I saw that? The year before. Okay, when I'm going to Ohio State's pro day and you're looking at C.J. Stroud workout, all right? And Marvin Harrison Jr. is out there running routes for him, and he's coming out the next year. And a lot of scouts are sitting there going, damn, look at Marvin Harrison. Like, look how he's running these routes. And people are going, well, why is he even out here? Like, this is a guy who maybe could be the number one pick of the draft. What does that say about C.J. Stroud? That he would want to be there for him, right? And that's not to take anything away from Bryce Young, because everybody down in Alabama loved Bryce Young. But Marvin just had that factor. And that's a part of the whole process, man. When you're evaluating these quarterbacks, like, you can watch all the tape in the world. Don't ever believe that the eye in the sky doesn't lie, because what it doesn't do is give you the entire picture. You have to go see these guys. And when I saw Jayden, I was just like, bing, done. That's it. That was it right there. And now look, you got veterans, young players all going, I want to go to Washington. I want to play with this guy. You know, you think Myles Garrett right now, you think I would assume the Washington fans would be like, Myles, we'll take you.
Oh, they're happy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I said that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I want to say this, and I said this, a little while ago. I don't know if I said it on TV or somewhere else. Jayden's going to have the same effect on Washington that Patrick is having on Kansas City. When it's all said and done, that's what's going to happen. He's going to have that same thing. Josh Harris is going to sit there and go, how much money do you want? Just make sure you leave a little bit so we can pay everyone else, but what do you want? He's going to be that kind of guy. And that's, I know in a business where everyone's trying to make a headline statement. I'm not trying to make a headline statement. That's just what I think.
Well, we use that in our headline.
Yeah, but use that. Yeah, go ahead. He's going to have that kind of effect as long as, Dan keeps people around him. Look, Patrick has had the benefit of having Andy Reid the entire time. He's had a very stable offensive system, same defensive coordinator, same special teams coordinator, same GM. Can Washington keep that kind of consistency around Jayden Daniels? If you do, there they go.
But you just touched on it here, Louis, and I'd love for you to go into that. What's the roadmap to get there? Because this has been sensational. This year was incredible. It's transcending all the right words. But now, okay, you're number one on the scouting report. Everybody's now geared to try to figure out how to stop you, slow you down, tougher schedules to come, et cetera. What's the roadmap for him to get there to be, well, as long as you got him, we're winning 12 games?
Yeah, there's an individual component and then a team collective component. For Jayden, he has to understand what his blind spots were this year, what he needs to improve upon, and understand what are some of the things that he struggled with. What kind of pressure points are people going to want to push on next year in order to try and make him more comfortable? How are they going to try and slow it down for him? You understand, I mean, you guys know about his training and about how he uses virtual reality to kind of stay ahead of the game, how he watches it even faster, so during game day it kind of looks slow to him. I mean, that's all next level stuff.
Why don't more quarterbacks do that?
That's a great question, because maybe not everybody's committed to the game and committed to being great like he is. You know, Tom Brady has a great quote, right? You don't always have to be the very best to be someone who's extremely successful. You have to be willing to do what most people aren't, which is be consistent. And Jayden has been consistent throughout his career in terms of his preparation, and he takes it in that next level with this kind of technology. I don't know why everybody wouldn't want to do that. I don't know why virtual reality wouldn't be something you would want to implement in whatever it is that you're doing. It just gives you a step ahead. So he's going to do that. But then Adam Peters has to make sure, just like Brett Veach has done in Kansas City, build that offensive line, keep him protected, don't have him getting hit, get some explosive playmakers at the running back position, keep the passing game continuing to evolve. Will Cliff stay around? Is he someone who Josh Harris just goes, hey, you know what I would do? I'd be like, Cliff, how much money do you want? So you don't go take a head coaching job. He seems like he has found his sweet spot. That relationship between he and Jayden, between Dan Quinn and Jayden, seems to be exactly what you're looking for. George Witt Jr., I mean, is he going to be someone who stays in the fold the same way Spagnuolo stayed in the fold down in Kansas City and didn't go anywhere? For whatever reason it is, people don't want to hire Spags and give him another crack at it. You keep all that stuff consistent, continue to restock the football team, it's going to be like it used to be when I played against Washington back in the days when they rolled everybody. It didn't matter who.
Louis Riddick of ESPN, before he became one of the top executives with the Eagles, started in Washington.
Yeah.
Cut his teeth as a scout.
How about that?
Did you guys know, like at that time, Danny and I joke about this all the time as a show.
Yeah.
Like we could just go on the air for years with Dan Snyder and be like, hey, he's still the owner. They have no chance. We'll be back at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Did you guys know that like almost no matter what you did, that the ceiling was so much lower just because the process was never clean or good?
Well,
and maybe you can't think like that.
You just knew that the process in and of itself, you know, from the bottom level up, right, as you kind of ran it up the flagpole, so to speak, the process wasn't the problem. It's like when it got to the higher up, it could all get blown up.
Yeah,
so,
you do all the work. You got the player. You got the
and you're sitting there thinking, this is how we're going to go. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, something like he could come in at the very end and be like, nope, I'm going to pay that guy. Nope, I'm going to pay that guy. Or, you know, and that is something that's very defeating. That can lead to a lot of bad decisions. Now, not everything happened that way. I think probably maybe more so what was the problem back in those days was the continuous churn of coaches and changing of philosophies where you're constantly having to go, well, this coach doesn't like this kind of player. Now we got to get these guys. So it was Marty Schottenheimer, and then it was Steve Spurrier, and then it was Joe Gibbs, and then it was Jim Zorn, and then it was Mike Shanahan. It's like, what the hell? What is all that? You'll never – in Kansas City, it's been Andy Reid.
Right.
And Andy Reid. In Pittsburgh, it's been Mike Tomlin. You know, in Baltimore, it was Brian Billick, and now it's John Harbaugh. And although those teams aren't killing it with the Super Bowls other than Kansas City, Washington would love to have the run that Baltimore's having.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Love to have the run that Pittsburgh's having. So that it's those kind of things. See that is out of a scout's hands. Like ownership could change that, and they did. You remember the 2001 season in Washington? Finished the year 8-8, have a ton of cap space.
8-3 in the last 11.
Yeah, right, exactly. So what I'm saying is, the team was set up for 2002 to kind of make a bit of a splash in free agency. Had all the draft picks, salary cap is in a good spot, and Marty's just fired. I remember the night I got the call from Marty Schottenheimer going, "I'm really sorry, Louis, but I'm being let go. I'm sorry I didn't get to work with you more." I'm like, "What? I just got here in June. We just finished the season.
You went 500 with Tony Banks at quarterback.
How about that?
With Tony
we
Banks,
just finished.
man.
We just finished the season. It was like that's a recipe for freaking disaster.
Yeah.
And that's what you've had.
Speaking of which, we should ask you before we let you go about the rest of the division. So there's now, I just love saying this, there's two teams that seem like they have their head on straight. Washington's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the Cowboys, who are still going to be relevant because they've got a quarterback in Dak, and the Giants. So just a thought on those two teams. Thoughts on Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach for the Cowboys? It's hard to wrap my head around. And then the Giants, do they go quarterback early? Is that guy going to be there?
Yeah.
What do those two teams need to do to play catch-up?
Cowboys. Brian Schottenheimer. Brian was in Washington with his dad that year in 2001.
That's right.
Look, I think Look, what's interesting, look, there's a lot of coaches who just never get the opportunity to really show you who they really could be from a leadership perspective, from a head coaching perspective, because they don't get the same kind of like sponsorship that some of these other guys. Like, look, this isn't a knock against my boy Adam Schefter, but he doesn't have Schefter talking about him. He doesn't have reporters from NFL Network talking about him. He doesn't have a powerful agency pushing him out there all the time, jamming him down the throat of every owner, so he doesn't get on the circuit, right? But that doesn't mean that there aren't guys out there. If you gave him a shot, he couldn't be a very competent to very, very good head coach. We'll see with Brian. So I'm not gonna make any judgment about what he is, and I really don't care what Jerry says about it, because you always know he's coming from a different angle, one that's very self-serving, right? So you don't really know what to believe there. So I don't know. I do know that this football team, they better be able to run the football better. They better be able to play more physical football up front on the defensive side, because Philly can maul them in that way. Washington's going to get that fixed. They'll be a better running football team. They'll get more offensive linemen. They'll get a home run back. So they better make sure they address some of their issues. I don't really know what Dallas. Jerry's such a wild card. Who the hell knows what it's going to look like in New York? Yeah, sitting 3, not being able to get one of the top 2 unless you move up. Of the quarterbacks coming out in this draft, the one guy who if I wanted to pick one, it would be Cam Ward. That would be the guy who I would want. I think his attitude, his leadership is exactly what New York needs. I don't think there's any question. Joe Shane needs to not only hit this pick, he needs to hit this pick in a historic way, because he made a historic blunder letting Saquon out of there and having that smug attitude like he did to let him out of there.
And we all saw it.
That HBO clip, yeah. that clip is legendary. Totally. The way John Mara is sitting there telling him, like almost like he didn't own the team, almost as if to say like he was a fan going, man, I'd hate to see Saquon go somewhere and be good, and like I'd really hate to see that. And Joe just has this look on his face like, I'm the GM. Like, I know what I'm doing. That's why you hired me. And for it to happen the way it happened, and for Saquon to be doing what he's doing right now, the only thing that – can you imagine if he had broken the damn rushing record against the Giants? If they would have let him play? Oh, you're absolutely right.
So lucky.
You're absolutely
and I'm spiteful
right.
enough, by the way. I'd have played his ass.
I would have done it.
Oh my God!
If he'd have broken that record against
them, John Mara would have it would have been like every person in this radio row would have been like, "That's the lead right there."
Shane might have been fired.
Oh my gosh, that's just unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And for everybody out there who hears this, who's Giants fans, who say, "Oh, you're just bitter because they gave the top to Gettleman," I don't give a damn about that. I honestly don't. I have a great life. I'm good. I'm just calling it like I see it. That, to me, is one of those moments in history when John Mara is talking to his GM almost like he's like below the GM, like, man, I'd really hate to have him go somewhere and do good. and the GM is kind of like, get out of here. I'm the GM. Like that. Like it was just one of those moments that I'll never forget.
Yeah, close
I'll
the door
never
your way
forget
out,
that.
please, buddy.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Oh,
Hall of Famer Mark.
How about that? How about that, dude?
And greeting,
you know what I mean?
Louis Riddick, all-timer. Hey, this was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Louis.
Thanks
really
a lot.
Appreciate it. It was a treat.
Of course.